Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance Committee for McLean County to order, and we have all members present. We have a quorum, so we can proceed. We're going to go to 2, which is approval of meeting minutes for March 8th of 2023, which is our regular meeting. Then we had 2 special meetings on January 12th and February 16th. And I need a motion to put that on the floor. We have a motion by Member Rosemond, and we have a second by Member Friedrich. Are there any questions or additions, corrections to those meeting minutes? Seeing none, we will vote. All in favor of approving those meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Do we have any appearances by members of the public or county employees?
We have had no requests this evening.
Very good, thank you. We do have an update for the EDC and Business Loan Program, and we have Mr. Hoban is here. Thank you very much, and I think we'll just let you take over, and any questions, please. I think he'll be open to questions as we proceed, but I think why don't we let you go ahead with your presentation and then we can ask questions. Do you want them during the presentation or do you prefer to have after?
We can go during.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
slide by
good.
slide.
All right, thank you.
Great. So Patrick Hoban, I'm the CEO of the Bloomington-Normal Economic Development Council, and we've been managing some funds that you guys received in the past. I think it was a total of about $600,000, and there's been multiple iterations of this program, so we'll go over some of that now. Next slide, please. We just did that one. Next slide. So yeah, agenda-wise, we'll talk about the challenge overall, the struggle, and hopefully the resolution with these new programs that we're going to recommend. Next slide. So as you know, the recovery funds are pretty much done for now, and that's because a lot of the restrictions and the things that the funds paid for are no longer required. And one of the other things that we noticed during this, because we transitioned, there's no more entrepreneurship programs available because we switched entrepreneurship over to recovery. So now the recovery phase is pretty much done. We're looking to switch it back to entrepreneurship and hopefully fill some of these 120 plus commercial spaces that we found around town. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, with the recovery loans, a lot of the qualifying expenses that those funds were for are no longer required because the restrictions were lifted, and currently there's about $380,000 left over. Next slide. So with the memo that I had sent out, we're recommending switching those over to 2 programs. One of them is bringing back the revolving loan fund that we had before, except for keeping that at a 0 interest rate. And the other program is what we discussed last time, which is a commercial lease grant. This is something that we actually stole from the city or village of Monticello. They do it at about $5,000 for a grant, but let me see. Yeah, go ahead and do next slide. So for example, some of the sites that we found, you're looking at office space, suites available about 52, retail at 49. You're looking at $13 to $17 per square foot. And so it's probably going to cover about 6 months of rent for hopefully some of these prospects. And the requirements are that it has to be a vacant space. The idea is that we're hopefully going to get some of these home-based businesses out of their homes and actually into these properties to invest some dollars. And for the county and just the assessor's office overall, ideally any building that has vacancy requirement on it right now, we can try to get rid of that so to bring the property value back up. Question? Yep.
We have a question. Is this just Bloomington Normal, or did you look at vacant spaces in our small rural communities?
This is all McLean County.
All McLean County. Very good. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So how to apply, it's a similar process where we had, Mr. Erickson, did you have a question?
Yeah, but you could have skipped past me. I'm not that important. The question I had was, these are going to be for McLean County businesses too, right? I mean, is there a requirement that you have to be an entrepreneur?
No, I mean, I think
in McLean County, or is how are we doing that?
It's definitely in McLean County. So you have to be a business that's going to take a vacant space in McLean County, and we won't do it to relocate from one area to another. So you can't go from like Lexington to Bloomington. It has to be either a new business coming in or somebody expanding into some vacant space.
All right, I got you.
Yeah, the idea is that we're pumping money back into these vacant buildings.
All right, I got you, thank you.
But no, all of McLean County. So application is similar to what we had for the revolving loan fund before, with the idea that, you have to go through the SBDC with an approved business plan unless your building or your business already exists. From them, we'll use the same process that we did for the forgivable loans. We'll run financial feasibility analysis by looking at your past financial documents, doing some projections, because we don't want to make bad loans to someone who's not going to make it. So same thing as far as location, address, lease rate, property owner, balance sheet, personal finance statement, everything that we required before. Next slide. And then, here's some of the actual requirements. So it's got to be a for-profit business. It can't be gig economy. So just because you're, an Uber Eats driver, you can't take up a space. We're not going to pay for that. Principal business office is in McLean County, so this is not just Bloomington Normal. And it's not a residence. So we want to make sure that these are commercial spaces that we're taking up, not residential spaces. So the zoning needs to be commercial. And it does not, we don't want to, pay for you guys or the businesses to lend out the money that we give them either. And then also they have to make sure that they're current on all their taxes for McLean County. But the idea is taken right off of Monticello's. Monticello makes them go through a 5-week boot camp. I don't feel like running one of those. I think the SBDC does a pretty good job at helping people out with business plans, so I think that'll qualify. From there, like I said, we'll run the financial feasibility and we'll take it to the CDC for approval. Then once they approve it, hopefully start filling some of these vacant spaces.
Any other questions?
On the next slide too, that whenever this does get approved, it'll show where on the website it'll be underneath business resources. There's quite a few resources already, but we'll flip this over. And then timing wise, next slide. Just today, a state program launched for anyone else that is in creative arts, hotels, or restaurants, the B2B program that we're managing as well. So that one just launched today. So if you know anyone in the restaurant industry that's still struggling, the state has dollars available. So there's a phone number up there as well. So we'll have 3 programs running about the same time.
What's the definition for creative arts?
Oh, that is a great question, and this is not the program that I am working on. Casey
Okay.
is.
Do they have a definition on the
Yes,
website?
yeah,
Very
on the
good.
applications.
Okay.
There's a breakdown of all of them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, but you can call that number up there and talk to Casey, and he's already received quite a bit already today.
So the revolving loan fund?
Yes.
That's one that we'd had in place pre-pandemic. What are the big changes? I know you highlighted the 0% interest rate. Are there any other changes that go along with that from key learnings from that program? And how widely was that program used pre-pandemic before things shifted?
So that program was not utilized at all, and we believe it had to do with the lower interest rates. The interest rates are skyrocketing right now, so we're hoping that this 0% is going to help out fill the gap on some of those. Yeah. Mr. Erickson.
Trying to make sure I'm gonna ask this question well. Is there any benefit, maybe I need to ask this more open-ended, I mean, you can tell me, is there any benefit to, I see we're on the commercial lease grant, if someone was coming in from out of county and they wanted to put their business here, we may want to give them a grant. On the revolving loan fund, is that just going to be limited to McLean County residents, or is there any benefit to doing it that way?
Oh, well, ideally, if it is owned by somebody that lives here, then they're taking those dollars back home. I don't know if we would limit it to residents of here. If they're opening a business in McLean County, that's the goal, is to fill the vacancy regardless of where their home address is. I'd rather take preference that those dollars go home as well, if there's a way we can rank them that way. But yeah, if somebody in Peoria wants to open up a business here, that's going to, increase our property taxes and fill a vacancy. I think that'd be okay.
Okay, this is a question for administration. It says here, this isn't an item action. So we're not voting on this tonight. Okay,
We will be voting next month.
okay,
This is the introduction,
okay.
so the vote will come next month.
And then I wanted to say one last thing. I've been on the finance committee for God only knows how long. And, we have had this money before. We've opened it up to let everybody have an opinion as to what we should do with it, and we got 20 different opinions, one from each county board member, and we never got anything done. So I hope that this round we come up with something quickly instead of debating it ad nauseum for the next 6 months. I mean, it's just, we gotta get something done, because it just sits there and does nothing, so we might as well do something with it. So anyway, thank you.
I think this would be an opportunity for this committee to understand this and ask some questions, because if you want to make any changes, this would be the opportunity to share those ideas with Mr. Hoban, and he then can make those changes as needed, and then we would have it available, so we could have it on the agenda as an agenda item to vote for next month. So that's really the whole direction of this. So I think that's why we have an open forum tonight, is to be able to ask those questions and clarify, or indicate if you really are not at all think that this is not a direction that McLean County should go. So,
And actually, the next slide has my cell phone number on it too, if anybody wants to call afterwards.
Member Lehman.
Sorry, just a couple questions. So will this slide presentation be sent out to us post-meeting,
Sure.
or might it be?
Yeah, you guys
Please,
have it.
thank you. And then, once everybody has a chance to copy down the phone number, can we go back a couple slides? I think like 2 to 3 slides that just kind of lays out the details of the program. I just want to double check something. Is there a, can we go back maybe one more? Sorry, thank you. Okay, so there is a requirement that they have to stay and keep the business in McLean County for at least 3 years. Am I understanding that correctly?
Oh, no, so the 3-year requirement is if it is a business that already exists, we need to see their financials to make sure that the company will actually float. But yeah, as far as how long they stay after the fact, there's not a requirement. So if it's 6 months and we pay it and they don't make it afterwards, that's it. There's not really there's not a clawback. So if that's a suggestion of adding in, I just know it's kind of hard to claw back on startups.
Yeah. Would something like that, would there be any benefit to having something in place that says that, the business starts in McLean County and we want to, like, any kind of like retention, not a retention bonus, but like any kind of like retention incentive to keep them in McLean County versus starting up in McLean County, getting a decent base, and then, going to a different urban core?
Ideally, they would use some of the other programs like the standardized incentive or the enterprise zone to keep them here. The only challenge that I've seen in Illinois in general by using any type of a retention program is everybody starts threatening to leave to get the retention incentive. Yeah, that's a slippery slope. We've seen it before in the EDGE program.
Okay, thanks for that perspective.
I wish there was, but yeah, it's gone the wrong way before.
All right, wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
I, like Member Erickson, have been watching, and we've watched this for a long time. I haven't been on this committee as long as Member Erickson, but quite a while, and we didn't see, as you've identified in the past, use of a bridge program or a loan program because of the interest rates. So, and I think the direction we went during the pandemic was a wise move. I don't know if there were any failures. I would hope that it kept people going, that we didn't have the people that were helped ended up still not having success. I don't know if you know that at all.
Everybody's still open, but there was one person who ended up declining the loan, and then he ended up moving.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it was my barber, unfortunately, but yeah, he never cashed the check.
Okay, all right. So I do believe that we, like Member Erickson, we need to move ahead with this. We need to utilize the money that has been available for 10 to 15 years, I believe. Is that not correct, Member Erickson?
That's why I'm the most senior member. I don't know everything. I mean, but I don't know. I just know that I don't want to see 20 different proposals like we've done in the past, because everybody has a different idea of what should happen with this, and then we never get anywhere because no one can make up their mind. You know, it'd be nice to get past that point, you know. Sorry, Chairman Metzger, that's my 6
Okay.
cents worth.
So if you have any, so what direction would you like us to follow? Should we have any new ideas?
Yeah, either the cell phone or the email. You guys have questions, you can follow up, or other programs you've seen, we can try to work that in there. Then, yeah, we'll bring that back next month based off the feedback that we get.
And I think it would be wise if you, to at least let administration know what ideas you may have, just so it can be, so we don't have any surprises the day of. You can't CC the entire membership because that would be a violation, so, but you can let our administration know. You could CC them on any emails, and that would be helpful, because we certainly want to make sure that this is open for all to understand. Any other questions? Thank you for your time, and thank you for your efforts, and we look forward to being able to vote on something next month.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for your partnership.
Okay, we are going to move on to 5A, and that is Kathy Michael, County Clerk, and 5A1A, and that is request approval of an increase to county clerk fees. And Ms. Michael has been working on this for quite some time, and I think she's got staff, Mark and Jeanette are both here to help, and we need to put that on the floor. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have Vice Chair Lehman is the motion, and we have a second by Member Roseman. And Ms. Michael, please proceed.
Hello. Good to see everybody. Hopefully this is explainable, explained well. So I'll leave it up to you. We had a fee study, obviously by Bellwether, and it tells you what that means. Some are suggested that we raise, some stayed the same. I think one was reduced. So we will leave it up to you now if you have specific questions for us. We're happy to answer, but we would like approval for this to be enacted for us.
We have a question by Member Erickson, and we'll follow with Vice Chair Lehman. Member Erickson.
Thank you. Question I have is on recording division. It says standard documents, it says current is 38, and then actual is 5184. Is that the actual cost, or is that, what is that? I'm trying to figure out what actual is.
Do you want to explain that, Jeanette or Mark?
Actual is going to be what the fee would be increased to, and that includes the RHSP that the state has raised also legislatively, which is effective July 1st.
And what would we be charging the public then, 61? Or what? I'm trying to figure this out.
What we would be charging the public would be 51, which includes 20 additional dollars for RHSP right now. So that's 20 that goes directly to the Department of Revenue.
Okay, so is the actual amount then, you have to excuse my ignorance here,
That's okay.
I'm just
No,
trying to
you're-
figure this out, okay? Is it the proposed amount that's gonna be the new amount, or is it the actual amount that's gonna be the new amount?
Excuse me. I think there may be a typo that says 61 instead of 51 there, where the actual amount is what Bellwether said that was our actual amount. And the proposed amount is what we propose to increase.
Oh, for that one, it's 51, you think?
It should be 51, do you think, Mark?
I believe, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I just couldn't figure
No.
that
That was-
out.
that
I mean,
was
I
me.
just like, what's
No,
going on here?
No, the confusion was, I think, too, with the RHSP increase. It is gonna be 61. And the RHSP exempt standard documents, we'll be charging 41 for those. So that's like any governmental body or not-for-profit organization. If they record a document, they're exempt from the $20 surcharge.
So the actual increase in the fee would be from 38 to 61.
In a sense, part of it legislatively, because part of it has to do with the RHSP that was increased.
Okay, so if, when an attorney comes in and asks you, why is that going up, what are you gonna tell them?
Well, would explain the legislation that had occurred, and was signed by the governor for the $10, additional. We already collect 10 on every real estate document currently. That is increasing by another 10 as of July 1st. And then the rest of the compilation of increase is simply for dock storage purposes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Member, or Vice Chair Lehman?
My question was very much in line with Member Erickson in trying to understand. It just looks like some of them are really an extraordinary jump. So with said extraordinary jump, what plans or what processes do you anticipate in being able to best communicate this to the public? Because that kind of a jump is like a whoa. Yeah, though it's not a ton of money, that is pretty sizable. So should this pass, what can we do to best explain kind of what you just did for us?
We'll put it on our website. And those are the fees that we will be charging based on the Bellwether study in comparison to other counties as well.
Okay, is this anything that we make any kind of a public announcement, or does it go to the media or anything to let, like a public notice type thing that fees are increasing, or is it just our residents will just find it on the website?
We can certainly consider that.
Okay, I'm just curious since part of it is the specific statewide increase and like that, so thank you.
I think Ms. Taylor would like to share some insight.
So as I was reading through the Bellwether documents, it appeared to me that one of the tasks that Bellwether completed was to see what the actual cost to the county was in providing these services. So including salaries and equipment and software and all of the actual costs that it takes to provide the service. And so when I was reviewing these three columns, I was considering that actual column was the cost to the county to provide the service, and so therefore their proposed increases would be similar or a little bit over that. Am I understanding that correctly? Yes. Okay.
And Member Friedrich.
And on the opposite side of that, page 5, second column from the bottom, Bellwether suggested $168 clerk fee on redemptions. Redemptions, I'd like an explanation on that, and you chose just to go on a range between $75 and $100. So here we have, and I'm kind of curious about what redemption is, and there you chose a lower amount rather than the suggested.
Right, so as Kathy just said, we don't really have to go higher, or we don't have to go up to the entire amount that they recommended. At the same time, to tell you about redemptions, those are when a person has back taxes. And so they're already owing these taxes, and our fee is on top of their taxes. So it is added onto something that's, they're already under a certain amount of burden.
Any other questions? Vice Chair Lehman?
So in addition to the suggested fee increase, were there any particular, like, as they were going through and doing the process, were there any like departmental efficiency things or like long-term planning things? Since they were kind of going through and evaluating, how much does this cost? What does this equipment do? That might be some ways to kind of shore up or plan for the future. So any future forward-looking efficiency pieces that might have come out of this as well.
Well, I just have to say that we rely on Bellwether because they're the experts on that. And so that we would, of course, always look forward to the future and future changes and things like that, if I understand your question.
Oh, if I could clarify, I was just curious, when they delivered the findings to you and said, hey, this is what we're suggesting on some adjustments for the cost or for the charges, did they share any feedback or any other information that says, hey, this is one way that we might be able to shore up operations or even plan for, you know, this type of software that'll make life easier long-term that we're perhaps planning in a 1, 5, 10-year capacity?
I think that's found on page 5. There's an RFP that's gone out for Vital Records Program to provide a better customer service and speed processing for records. So they sent out an RFP for that. Is that accurate? I'm sorry. On page 5, second paragraph, it talks about an RFP that you had go out for Vital Records. And that is to look at self-scheduling and doing some self-improvements. Is that where, would that answer her question?
You take that one because Bellwether is to do a study and give us their recommendations. They don't look at our equipment and forward thinking, we do that. So if I'm understanding right, but Jeanette probably has something.
So Craig Nelson has been so kind to take it on himself to do an RFP for a Vital solution, which is kind of doing what you were talking about, trying to get some good technology for us and solve some of our clunky methods of doing things that are kind of repetitive and could be automated. And so that, I think that that's going to provide a lot of efficiency.
Cool, thank you. Glad to hear that it's an overall solution for us.
And just to piggyback on that, on the recording portion of things, the digitization was looked at by Bellwether because we have a large supply of records that go back to the founding of the county. And for the public to be able to access those, we're continually putting those records out on, you know, our website so that people can access them, and it helps speed up economic processes as well. That was something that was looked at in the study.
And we always want to look at that. I just want to make people aware, just because we automate something does not mean it gets cheaper. Because when you automate something, then you have to continue to maintain that application. You have people who are taking care of that. So you may have some efficiencies on the labor side. However, it can easily be offset by the cost of the technology. So, you know, we don't want to automatically assume when things are digitized or when things go from a more manual process to a technical process or a technology process that it will be cheaper, because it doesn't always happen that way. So, but I do appreciate the details. I did like throughout this, it specifically, the narrative did provide a lot of detail, and so do appreciate you including that, because as Ms. Taylor said, to review this in detail, we do see that in some cases, the actual fees, what it cost, are more than what you are proposing. And I think that proves that you are being reasonable with those increases. But we have, it appears from what Bellwether has shown us that our fees have not covered the cost of actually providing the service. So I appreciate the efforts that the county clerk has made to look at those fees. So thank you. Any other questions? All right, so going to vote on the request to increase these county clerk fees to the proposed rates that are found in the documentation. And all in favor, say aye. Opposed? The motion passes. We are going to move on to monthly reports, so that's 5A, 2A, and monthly reports are in our packet. Does anybody have any questions since we have everyone here? This would be a good opportunity if you have any specific questions to ask the county clerk's team in person. Okay. I did get something, and I think we all have been receiving information from the county clerk's office about our economic interest statements. So just be aware, May 1st, those are due. If you did not receive an email, look in your junk mail. Mine always goes to junk mail for some weird reason. So look in your junk mail, or Jeanette will be happy to talk with you and make sure that email gets sent directly to you if you have not received it yet.
Thank you. Junk mail, a likely story. I'm kidding. And I want to say big thanks because these two do all the heavy lifting and all the details, and we greatly appreciate it, our chief deputy and the director of, what do you do, Mark? Recording. So they do a great job, so thanks, everyone.
And I just want to make one more comment, and that happens to be for the other. And other would be our election team. Your election team did a marvelous job. I can tell you that at least in my township, and I saw for many weeks ahead here in the government center and in my township, things ran very smoothly. The equipment is quite efficient and user-friendly, and your staff was very helpful. So I just want to thank you, at least from my perspective as a voter. I appreciated that.
Thanks, and believe it or not, once the dedicated staff actually gets some time off, we start right into 2024. So if you want to sign up to be an election judge, please let us know. But it's going to be a very, shall we say, exciting 2024, and we're going to start very, very early. So appreciate any help or advice. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you so very much for your time and the efforts that you've made on this. We'll move on to 5B, and that is Marshall Thompson, and she has monthly reports, but we don't have any action items, but she always has good news to share, so the floor is yours.
It's springtime, so you'll be seeing a lot of public service announcement about seasonal activity of wildlife. So we'll try to put some flyers out on Facebook, and please share those with people that might need them. We'd appreciate it. Animals are doing well. The shelter's ready and getting ready for the busy season, and we're looking forward to the new opportunities in the future and can't wait.
Are there any questions? I did see you at TSC, not you, but your team, and that was a nice, very well done event. So thank you very much. I hope that was successful, but certainly lots of people inspecting those animals, so thank you.
we really appreciate the partnership with Tractor Supply of Bloomington. They do a fantastic job in helping promote our program and adoptions, and we're going to try to do once a month through the spring and summer and fall. So we have a new employee who is super excited about participating in that effort. So the management over there is also really looking forward to it. So you'll be seeing more about that in the next month or two once we get it all worked out on our dates and times and opportunities.
Very good. Thank you so very much. Okay, we have 5C. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Your peripheral vision didn't catch you. So, Vice Chair Lehman.
Thank you. I just noticed that, as been trending, the year over year, intake and outcome from cats is increased. We got a lot more cats coming through animal control this year than we had in years past and like that. Just curious if there's anything that we as a body and a committee, we as county, government, or we as a community can do to best help and support you all with the increased flow of cats, or if there's anything that we should be looking that we can get the word out there for spay or neuter programs, or just anything, because that really stood out looking at the quite a bit more than last year, yeah.
So we are seeing an uptick in cats especially, but dogs as well. So would like to tell our community that we do have the McLean County Pet Population Control Fund program. So it's income eligible, and so if you want to see if you qualify, contact the Animal Control Program, and we will get an application to you. You just need to get an estimate from your veterinarian, and it's dependent on availability of funds. When there's funds there, then we help you work with your veterinarian to get the animal spayed or neutered. But ultimately, overpopulation is unwanted animals that are being born, and so to stop that from occurring, we need to do a really good incentive on spay neuters. So anyone out there, if you're able, please get your pet spayed or neutered. That really does help contribute. I'm also looking at some alternative advertising opportunities, so I'll be asking administration about that soon. And we got a lot going on moving into this next year, but we want to stay focused on spay neuters and reunification of pets and all the things that our program is responsible for.
Thank you very much. And the property committee got to go out and tour animal control, and the dogs and cats out there are absolutely adorable, need lots of love, lots of homes. So keep up the great work, and thanks for the information shared with everybody on the pet population control program.
Thank you very much. We have 5C, and that is Tim Jorzak, and that he is our supervisor of assessments. He and his staff member are here this evening, and they have nothing for action, but please share any insights or outcome as to status on levy, tax bills, all of those things.
Oh, thank you very much. Like Chairman Metzger said, I don't have anything on the agenda tonight. Just came here to answer any questions anybody might have. We're still kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern right now, waiting for some information from the state before we can move on and start looking at what the 2023 assessments are going to look like. I expect those here in the next couple weeks, though. But yeah, that's where we are. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them if you got them.
It doesn't appear that you have any questions, but I do know that he and his staff are always available. I go down there, not a lot, but a little more probably than some, just because of our township stuff. And they're always available. If something comes to mind after you've left this meeting, please go down to the first floor.
Absolutely. Please. Thank you.
All right, very good. We're going to move on. It doesn't look like Michelle Anderson is here, our county auditor. She's already submitted her review of the bills, which we'll talk about later. So we'll move on to 5E, 1A, and that's accept and place on file the county treasurer's monthly fiscal reports. And everyone should have received those. And Ms. McNeil is here. May I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by Member Friedrich and a second by Vice Chair Lehman. Good afternoon. Good to have you here.
Good evening, good morning. I'm not sure what day it is or anything right now. We're going through audit right now, so I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. It's just a crazy time, but that's okay. So the financial report you have in front of you, the receipts for the month of March represent, for the sales tax, represent the December activity. And December has always been a very positive month, obviously because of Christmas sales. But looking back about 5 years ago, we're about 70% higher here in 2023 than we were at that time. And it's all part of that growth we've been talking about, but especially in the last couple of years. We were at 483 in December 21, and then 667 and 786. So you can see how that has grown. And so for the month of March, our receipts were $1,544,000 compared to $1,714,000. The big difference there is the PPRT, which it's a little too early to find out from the state of Illinois why. PPRT is down. We'll find out more about that in the coming months. Again, the monthly comparison down $170,000 compared to March of 2022. Year to date, our receipts are $4,584,000 compared to $4,293,000 a year ago. So we're still up by $291,000. And when we look at budget, we are currently budget would have us at about $3.2 million. We are actually at $4.5 million on the receiving side. So that puts us about $1.3 million ahead of budget right now. Looking at the shared sales tax numbers that come in from the town of Normal and the city of Bloomington, total for the month of March was $508,000. And that number across there, I'm sorry, I can tell you right now that is wrong. I apologize. I didn't pull the right number in from March of 2022. I'll have to correct that. But in any event, the 2023 totals are $1,368,000, and we're running ahead. We're fine. We're doing good. Fund equity is $15.5 million in that shared sales tax fund. Property tax revenue, your budget, $40,644,000. On Monday, I expect to see the extension from the county clerk, and then we'll start billing and have bills out by the end of April. In a month from now, we'll be talking about tax rate, where the tax rate ended up, how the tax rate has changed, and where we're at as far as our overall collection amounts here in McLean County. I'll bring that to you next month in the form of a graph as well, so you can see it. The motor fuel tax, the regular county motor fuel for the month of March, February receipts was $144,000, $148,000 on the renewal. Township, $122,000, $125,000 on the renewal. And it's surprising to see the renewal revenue being higher than the actual, but I guess that's the way the state has calculated it. They determine those calculations. So total for the first 3 months of the year, $935,000 on county, $793,000 on township. Moving on to the next report. This report, just because of how the timing fell for this month, and we're under audit right now. So we're very, very busy trying to work with our auditors, trying to get them everything that they need while they're in-house for 2 weeks. So I haven't updated the rates on this report, but you can see we're still getting very good rates on treasuries. And today the Illinois funds rate was over 5%. Still very surprising to see these short-term rates stay as high as they are, but that's where we're at right now. So, across all funds, we are currently at 114,507,320.87. So I do want to point out one thing on this report. If you could just go back to page 2 for me. You will see that the second group there from the top is the nursing home. Last month, you guys, the board gave the county treasurer borrowing authority for the nursing home. During the month of March, there are 3 payrolls, and that is a significant payout for all of 1 month for having 3 payrolls. So that's the reason why the overall cash position at the end of the month of March was negative $1,124,000. Even if the nursing home wasn't in the financial condition that it was, March is one of those months, even for the general fund and all funds, where expenses are typically going to exceed revenues if you look at operating because of having that 3rd payroll. It's a big hit. So anyway, any questions about that? The next report is the Blue Cross Blue Shield summary. And I would just want to, again, keep in mind that we got that $200,000 credit at the beginning of 2023. But you can see that during the month of March, we kind of caught up. One thing that happens during the month and during the first few months of the year are the health and wellness incentives for employees, where employees go out and have physicals done so that they can qualify for a lower deductible. And sometimes those particular instances result in further visits. So we typically do see during the month of March a little bit of an uptick. Last year, the reason why it was so high last year was because during the month of February, Blue Cross Blue Shield did an adjustment, a conversion to a new software system. And so our claims got a little bit behind. But anyway, I just wanted to cover the variances there that you're seeing. March is what we would typically expect. But overall, we are at, our expenses are $265,281. Our claims are higher here in 2023 at this point.
And we hit a stop loss this month?
We have, yes, we do, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we are, it's not unusual, but we continue to see the pharmacy, our drugs, which would be in column 5, in a negative.
I
It's
know,
just
that's kind of.
nothing we can do.
It's how it's presented to us in the report. I literally, my staff member, he has taken a report that has far more columns to it, and he has grouped them into these groups for us. It's very complex, but this is the way in which we worked with Jeff Gilmore a few years ago. This is the best way in which he has suggested that we pass this along to you. So, yeah, we do get the RX credit. Okay. And then moving on to the nursing home report. So, last month at the, I gave you the final snapshot of December and December of 2022. And now we're under audit. But before going into audit, we made one more entry to the December or to the 2022 numbers at the suggestion of the nursing home administrator, and also with the acceptance of the county administrator's office and our office and the county auditor and our external auditor. 1 month ago, we were talking about that receivable of $4.1 million, and I really have been hammering in, we gotta figure out what that is. Because I think we clearly knew that it was not actual, but the nursing home had to sit down and they had to determine what part of it was not actual. What at this point in time has aged out too much. But anyway, the nursing home is still working on that. But we went ahead and we set up a reserve for bad debt of $2.8 million at the end of 2022. And that is, I believe, that estimate came from Mr. Wiley himself. Mr. Wiley is going to continue to look at those receivables and collect on them, work with his consultants, determine what is actual. In his conversations with me, he has alluded to the fact that loss mitigation efforts were not followed up on. For example, when a claim is paid, there are times in which the claim is denied for any particular reason. Loss mitigation efforts would have had the staff go back in, look at the claim, see if it could be recoded, see if it could be submitted under something else, exhaust all efforts before saying, okay, this claim is not collectible. So Mr. Wiley is working with his consultants to determine of that receivable and of that amount that he has determined is potentially uncollectible. They are working on determining if there's any part of it that they can still continue to go after. Okay, but at this point in time, it is set aside. It's a reserve. It has not been, the receivable has not been written off. But what this reserve has done is it has reduced fund equity. So I wanted to talk with you about that so we could move into the 2023 report, because you'll continue to see this reference and you'll understand it a little bit better. Okay, so when we move into 2023, for his three major sources of revenue, and he has other revenue, there's other revenue that goes into the nursing home, but the major sources of revenue are the funds that they receive from the residents that are on Medicaid, private paid, and Medicare. So you can see there for the month of January, he had $746,000 in accrued revenue. For the month of February, $682,000 in accrued revenue. So those together are $1.4 million. The moving down to the third column, or the third row there, you'll see the year-to-date accumulated revenue and expenses. This is what I mean by these are not the only sources of revenue that come into the nursing home. The year-to-date revenue recorded through February was $1.7 million, and expenses were $1,420,000. So at the end of February, his revenue was exceeding his expenses by $304,000. The receivable, this is the receivable we've been talking about that the nursing home needs to go through and determine what is actual, what's collectible, what's not collectible. That is going to sit at the $4 million mark until the nursing home makes that determination. And then from that point, that's where we'll go and we'll offset that receivable against the reserve. Okay. So the receivable at the end of February was $4,428,490. The cash at the end of February, cash was negative $674,394. The fund equity at the end of February was fund equity was $901,442. It's actually up from the $597,204. Okay, so the fund equity at the end of December, the last time I talked to you, I gave you a number, fund equity of $3,413,000. You take that $2.8 million off, and that's how you get to that fund equity beginning balance of $597,204. okay? So I'm gonna leave this reference on there, on that, that bad debt reserve that's sitting out there. I'll leave that reference as we continue to move through 2023. I explained that really quickly, didn't I? Sorry.
Are there any questions? It looks like Member Erickson has a question.
Yes, thank you. I had the opportunity to talk to Ms. McNeil this afternoon, and I was asking her some questions about some of these numbers. And she did explain to me that $2.8 million reserve, but, you know, last month we had talked about, let me get the exact quote here. Ms. Taylor noted that she felt the Titanic was turning. Ms. McNeil agreed that things are turning, but it is a slow turn as they have AR that needs to be resolved. I think it would be helpful to this committee if I know Health Committee does some of this, but I would like to see the head of the nursing home come and address us and tell us what's going on. Explain some more information about this bad debt and how he's trying to correct that, and some other issues about what he thinks about, are we turning? How much time does he think he needs to turn it? And I want this information. And so I don't want to get stonewalled on the information. I would just like to see that, you know, I want to see this happen. And so I hope we can do that. But I also Ms. McNeil had mentioned some stuff about giving a more comprehensive report about what had gone out in the past, over the past 10 years. And I can't remember exactly what you said to me, but you offered it. Do you remember what that was?
The report that I submitted last month?
No, you'd said, do you want a more comprehensive report about these 10-year numbers and the transfers and all these numbers and how they play together?
I don't recall that. I'm so sorry. I'm not disputing it. I just don't.
Okay, well,
Recall
I'll
that.
come up with it and I'll ask for that too. I'll call you and we'll try and talk about it again, but,
Okay.
but I would like to get that number too. I just think it's time that the Finance Committee takes a deep dive into this too, and to see where we're going to end up on all that. So I would appreciate if we could do that.
So I think what we will ask is maybe for our nursing home administrator to be able to provide a little bit more detail on this bad debt, is what,
On the bad debt, but what is he trying to do to come up with a process out there where the bad debt isn't accumulating like that anymore? But also, you know, I know that they just came out of COVID out there, and I know that that placed some restrictions on the nursing home. But I'd also like to get a little bit more information about, you know, what does he see as the, see where all this is headed? I mean,
and I think, I'm sure he would be happy. He's got some ideas that he has implemented, and I think those will, are helping turn the tide, but certainly having him here would be beneficial.
We will absolutely ask him to attend next meeting and be prepared to discuss not only his own process to address aging, but also any specific plans that the consultants have shared on how they are going to attack this and how they will analyze whether this is a collectible debt or not.
And I think also his ideas on revenue, how that is, how it will, his ideas on improving revenue, I think would be.
but I'd also like to see projections. I mean, we've been stuck in this pattern for almost 10 years now. And, you know, many of us voted for a recommendation of a panel to see this thing change. And at some point, it has to change. And at some point, it has to do something. And so I would like to get his projections. Does he see the Titanic turning here? at some point in the future. Because, you know, I did like that. I did like how that was worded. The Titanic was turning. All right, well, if the Titanic was turning, then it needs to start turning. Now, we did give him some leeway that it could be a slow turn, but eventually the turn has to take place. And, you know, are we talking, we're 2 years out, we're 8 years out, or we have no idea if we're ever going to turn it, you know?
And then you have agreed to clarify the details on an additional analysis from the treasurer's office? Is that,
I will work on that. I'm sorry it was the end of the day and there were other things I was trying to do so I
Okay,
could
that's
get over
fine,
here
as
while
long
I
as
was
we-
talking to Ms. McNeil, but I will figure out exactly what I was looking for so I can get that information as well.
okay. And I know Ms. McNeil is more than happy to work with you.
Yeah, I
so-
know she is. She told me she was.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Ms. McNeil? Okay, seeing none, we need to vote on accept and place on file the monthly treasurer's report. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Very good. Motion passes.
Thank you.
And I do want you to know that I did speak with Ms. Wheeler today, and she was very complimentary of you and your team providing, she said they rarely get a public entity to provide the details of, that she's receiving from your team as well as Ms. Anderson. But I just want you to know that it is recognized on the part of our auditor, the efforts that your team is making. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge and thank them, thank you and your team for that. Because
you.
it does save the county money when we don't give them a pile of information and let them sort through it. We give them the pile, and it's already been sorted, so, and analyzed. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to 5F, 1A, and that is request approval of a position reclassification for Facilities Department Director position. And that's found on page 38 in our packet. And may I have a motion to put that on the floor? We have a motion by Member Rogal and a second by Member Roseman. And Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, Chair Metzger. You have the memo before you. It is pretty succinct. Our facilities director resigned earlier this month, and when we developed the posting, we realized some places where we could make that more in line with our salary study, new position grades, but also bring back the job responsibilities to facilities management for the custodial staff. So that would increase the management of the janitorial supervisor as well as his team of about 10, I believe, back under facilities management.
Any questions related to this? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving the position reclassification for Facilities Department Director, say aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Moving on to 5F, 1B, request approval of a position reclassification request for the Office Support Specialist 3 position in the Information Technology Department, and that is found on page 39. May I have a motion? I have a motion by Member Rogal and a second by Member Friedrich. And Ms. Taylor?
Thank you again. Craig Nelson is here. If you have any questions, his memorandum on page 39 indicates the additional requirements and job duties that this position would take on, moving them from an Office Support Specialist 3 to a similar designation, but as a Office Support Specialist 4.
My only question would be, that obviously you have those responsibilities that need to be performed. Do we have the capability of locating somebody that can do both those, effectively manage the administrative technical duties, or excuse me, clerical duties, as well as those technical duties?
Mr. Nelson is joining us at the table, but I believe that this position, they have identified qualified candidates that would fit into this that maybe would not have the skill set to be in a programmer position or a another help desk ticket position, but this kind of fills that interim niche. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, the position really hasn't changed a lot in the 15 to 20 years that it's been there. It's primarily clerical, been clerical up to this point. What I'm looking to do is, we currently have 3 people who are identified as network support specialists. They're kind of the help desk people who, your printer gets jammed, your computer's not working. The idea is that this person would kind of bridge the gap and begin to take on some of those lighter duties that are a little bit more easily to train with, and possibly even, they could possibly even work their way up to being prepared to take one of those positions when an absence, when a vacancy becomes available. But it's getting tougher and tougher to run the office with someone who doesn't have that level of technical background, sometimes even to be conversant in some of the things that are coming across the help desk.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. All in favor of approving that reclassification from, or to office support specialist position in information technology, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving, thank you very much for being here. Moving on, 5F1C, and that's request approval of a resolution amending the fiscal year 2023 full-time equivalent position resolution for grant manager position in the Behavioral Health Department, and that's found on page 40 and 41. And may I have a motion, please? We have a motion by Member Roseman and a second by Member Lehman. And Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. As Mr. McCall has outlined in his memo, the needs for this position, we believe, would be better served in a full-time equivalent position working for the county as we identify more and more behavioral health grants. We also understand that there is an intersect between behavioral health and the justice system, working on those grants that come through BJA or SAMHSA. Those grants could offer services throughout our criminal justice departments as well as the Behavioral Health Coordination Department. This has been budgeted through our contractual. This isn't included in our budget. The cost for this position is included, but it was included in our contractual line, and so we would be moving this from the contractual line into our 500 lines for salary.
So the money's available, it just has to be moved.
Correct, and how we want to
Okay.
designate this person.
Does anyone have questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the resolution amending the full-time equivalent position resolution, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We are moving on to 5F1D, and that is request approval of request for funds for the Employee Wellness Fund for 2023 Employee Wellness Fair, and that's found on pages 42 to 43. And may I have a motion? Member Erickson makes the motion, and a second by Member Friedrich. Very good.
So prior to the pandemic, our health department would sponsor for the county an annual health and wellness fair. and it was very well attended, very complimentary feedback and evaluation from our staff on the Employee Wellness Fair. The Health Department, under the leadership of Jessica McKnight, is proposing to bring that back. And so this would be to support some of the costs associated with that wellness fair.
Do we have any questions? I do know I've attended multiple ones of these, not here at the county, but you have community services and resources. Do they also bring incentives and things with them to share with our employees?
Yes. The different booths that they have available. They have resources. They will sometimes have different activities that they can complete while they're at the wellness fair, as well as follow-up available after the fair. So.
Okay. Questions? All right. All in favor of the request for funds for the wellness fair, say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We now are moving on to 5F, 1E, and that's request approval of a contract between the FOP, which is Federation of
Fraternal Order
Fraternal
of
Order
Police.
of Police, thank you. I should have asked Mr. Rogal. I'm sure he could have run that one off the top of his tongue. But Lodge 176 and the County of McLean, McLean County Sheriff Corrections. And we'll go into closed session if we need to. If we do not, we will remain in an open session. These would have to be very high-level questions. If we need to get into the meat of this, we will have to have a closed session, so.
I will just quickly say that you received a memorandum from Chris Spanos that would have been included in the same document with Patrick Hoban's forgivable loan recommendation. And so that would include the changes that were made to the contract.
And we do have our sheriff here, and appreciate your time to answer any high-level questions.
Do we have a motion?
I have not done that yet, so let's get a motion on the floor first. We have a motion for request approval of the contract, and we have a motion by Vice Chair Lehman and a second by Member Rogal. Thank you very much. And any questions related to, this has been going on, can you tell me how long did we have negotiations? It's been a little while, I believe, right?
2 years, 3 months.
And I see that we are going to have prorated, there are a couple of things that we are prorating, taking it back to pick up those times that they were working without a contract. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Member Erickson.
I don't know if the question is appropriate for open session or closed session, but before I even ask that question, you've had some difficulties hiring correctional officers. Would that be true?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And, since 2020, we've had partially the defund the police movement. I mean, do you think any of that is attributed to that because of just an overall feeling that some people just don't want to go into law enforcement anymore?
I believe that could have something to do with it, yes.
Okay. I guess my question then next would be, if this doesn't resolve the problem, is this going to be enough? Well, I tipped you off that might be coming. I don't know if that's a question that,
I was expecting that question. Member Erickson, I think that this is always a moving target, that the whole employment situation right now, at any job, is not good.
And I think that, that this proposed contract, if approved, this is a major step in the right direction on behalf of this county and this union. I think they voted on it, they agreed to it. And, you know, I give a lot of credit to the administrative staff, Mr. Spanos, for all the hard work that went into this. And I think this is a very good contract.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not criticizing whether the contract's good or not. I guess my question, if 6 months from now you find out you're not in any better position than you were today or a year from now, what can the county do to potentially say, maybe we need to do more here?
Well, sir, I would be happy to bring it to your attention if that's the case. If I believe that that's what needs to be done, and maybe reopen.
Can we go into closed session? Can I make a?
I think we have a motion to go into closed session by Member Erickson. We need a second on that. We have a second with Member Rogel. That being the case, then I need to read pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2 C2 of the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining negotiation matters between public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedule for one or more classes of employees. So, and we need to vote to go into closed session. All in favor of going into closed session, say aye. Opposed? The motion passes, and we need everyone to leave, except, I guess, do we keep the sheriff here or not? And the chief deputy are being retained. Everyone else will leave, and we will get things set up. No microphones, and I have a problem with that because I always do that, so no microphones.